Well, hi everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Sebastian and I are here to walk you through the latest in AI-powered chatbot automation, specifically using NativeChat from Progress. Now, before we get started though, I need to run you through some quick logistics for this webinar. If you can't hear me, haven't been able to hear me, or at some point the audio cuts out for you, please connect with your computer audio, not your phone. This is a very common issue with GoToWebinar. If that doesn't work, just try restarting your GoToWebinar viewer and all should be okay. And if all else fails and you can't watch the presentation we provide today, or maybe you just want to watch it again, we will be sending out a follow-up email with a link to the video, along with links to some of the resources we present today. And as a quick introduction, my name is Rob Lauer and I'm on the developer relations team here at Progress. If you're a Twitter person, you can find me there at Rob Lauer. Today I'll be your MC, providing some background on NativeChat before I send you over to the real expert today, Sebastian. Now, as we all know, today both as users and developers, we expect quick and accurate resolution to support issues. Speaking for myself, I can't stand reading long blocks of text on websites. I just want my question resolved without wading through FAQs or filling out support forms. And now we're also collectively steadily embracing non-traditional means of, say, booking hotels or cars, or even setting up appointments of all different types. And this could happen on the desktop web, mobile app, or even voice assistants. And on the flip side, many of us still have a business to run. We don't want our support staff overrun with mundane and repetitive tasks when we can offload those. Unfortunately, we end up paying more when our end users use more expensive support paths, like phone calls or even email. And this is really where NativeChat comes into play. We like to call NativeChat the cognitive chatbot that never sleeps. NativeChat allows app developers to create and deploy AI-driven chatbots. These bots can take pressure off real human teams, whether they be support teams or appointment schedulers, and handle those repetitive and routine tasks. Your staff is then free to focus on higher priority interactions. And if done right, your customers are just as delighted to interact with a bot as they are with a real person. So some of the advantages of using NativeChat include growing self-service transaction rates. Through our work with a variety of existing customers, we've actually seen call center agent performance improved by about 33%, plus the ability to handle a greater call volume. And when users can ask simple questions with their own natural language and receive answers that match their context and intent, they're able to accomplish more in less time and have a better overall experience. And frankly, you can increase your competitive edge by deploying chatbot technologies to wherever your customer wants to be. Whether it's Facebook Messenger, the web, a mobile app, a voice assistant, Viber, or another channel, NativeChat can get you there. Now, from the developer's perspective, NativeChat makes it super easy to get started creating your first chatbot. With a development UI that uses familiar JSON constructs, it's incredibly easy to get started building and customizing the right chatbot for you. Plus, there's an integrated testing console that lets you test changes as you make them. And as mentioned before, you can quickly publish your bot to a variety of channels. And once you're published, you can start gathering useful analytics that let you see where your users are most successful and what parts of your chatbot journey can use some tweaking. And today we're going to see an early sneak peek of a visual designer for creating certain types of chatbots with NativeChat. This is pretty exciting for a lot of us here at Progress. And Sebastian's going to dive into the entire development experience in far more detail, of course. Finally, I did want to mention that NativeChat was named Innovative Product of the Year by Computer World Bulgaria for its usage at a major hospital in Sofia, Bulgaria. A NativeChat bot there now handles almost 50% of all incoming hospital appointments, which is pretty amazing. Now, before I hand things over to Sebastian, I wanted to mention the NativeChat pilot program. Let's say you have an innovative chatbot use case for your business. Let's also say you like what you see today. In that case, you'll want to head over to progress.com/nativechat/pilot-program. Here you can sign up for the NativeChat pilot program, and we'll be happy to talk and see if NativeChat is the right fit for you. We'd love to chat about what you're doing with bots, and also get your ideas and suggestions on how we might improve NativeChat. Again, Sebastian will provide more details later on. Okay, with that, I'd love to transition over to the real NativeChat expert here, and that is the aforementioned Sebastian Vitalet. Sebastian is a senior developer advocate here at Progress. You can find him on Twitter at Sebavita, and the guy can rock a bow tie. Sebastian, the stage is yours.
Hello everyone, my name is Sebastian Vitalet and I'm a senior developer advocate at Progress. You can follow me on Twitter at Sebavita. So today I want to talk to you about a few things. First, I'll give you a history of how we came up with the idea of NativeChat. Then I'll give you an introduction to what NativeChat really is. Then we'll go through a quick demo and we'll create a guided conversation. We'll also have a look at the new UX for the question answering. Then I'll give you an overview of the pilot program that Rob mentioned just a moment ago. And if you like what you see today, you could actually follow this tutorial at home or in the office, and you could learn about NativeChat by yourself. So let's start with a quick history. A couple of years ago here at Progress, we had a hackathon where one of the teams decided to create a virtual assistant, which would basically allow people at Progress book meeting rooms. And we have meeting rooms in different offices. We have some in Sydney, in Boston, in Sofia, in different locations across the globe. And the whole thing seemed like a pretty straightforward idea, and it should be easy to implement. So the whole team was like really eager and ready to go. We said like, hey, we got 48 hours. We can really build that. We can build something fantastic and win this hackathon. The problem was that we came up with the logical tree of how the whole flow would have to work in order to achieve this. And this is just the version 1. And we realized that with the conventional program languages with if-else statements and switches, we were not able to achieve this goal. So without any surprise, the hackathon actually progressed just like this. Where at the beginning we're like, well, what the hell is going on? This is a lot bigger. This is not working out very well. Well, this is getting very stressful. And in the end, we only delivered 10% of what we set out to do. But you only ever fail when you don't learn from the mistakes that you are making. So after the hackathon, we sat down and tried to analyze what was it that went wrong. And we realized that the problem that we were trying to approach could not be achieved through the standard way of how we program and build our applications. And based on that, we came with the idea of NativeChat. So it is an AI-powered platform for creating intelligent chatbots, but more importantly, it uses a declarative programming approach as opposed to the standard if-else statements to construct your chatbots. So instead of actually focusing on each step and how the whole flow should actually work, you focus on what is it that your chatbot needs to know to achieve its goals. So let's have a look how this whole thing works with a guided conversation and building it with JSON. So first, we can create a step of type question. So we'll ask the user some sort of a question. Then we'll say, well, we are asking for a country, and the available values are France, Germany, Italy, and Poland. Next, we provide a chatbot with a prompt message, which basically would ask which country are you traveling to. And finally, we provide some UI prompt, which in this case we call quick reply, that creates a bunch of little buttons with the options available to the user. And with this very little code, we can already build something like this. So first, the user says, I want to order a car, and then the chatbot will respond, here are available options to you. And when the user chooses Italy, it then can go on and move on to the next step. It's pretty simple. And the beauty of all of this is that you can use the same code to deploy your chatbots to Alexa, to Facebook Messenger, to Viber, to any web page, or even deploy to a mobile application. So let me show you how this whole thing works in action, and I will build a very simple chatbot for a shipping company. And the scenario here that we have is basically the user will ask, where is my parcel? Or what is the status of my delivery? And the chatbot will need to know information like a postcode and a tracking number in order to answer to those questions. So here's a dashboard of a brand new chatbot project. And what I want to do is go and create a guided conversation. So in our case, we want to create a new conversation. and I'll call it delivery status. And when this conversation gets triggered, just for the test for now, I want to print out a message saying something like delivery status works. And now what I want to do is actually train my chatbot to tell him when to trigger this conversation so that the chatbot should understand when to trigger it, right? So I want to call delivery status when something says something like, where is my delivery? What is the status of my delivery parcel status? And with just that, I can already go and test my chatbot. So I can say something like, where is my delivery? And the chatbot will respond with, delivery status works. Well, obviously I have a small spelling mistake, but that doesn't really matter. So the next thing that we really need to know in order to make this chatbot meaningful is we have to train him how to recognize when somebody provides us with a tracking number or provides us with a postcode. So what we can do in here is basically train it based on some sort of regular expressions, right? So first one, we could, for example, create an entity called tracking number, and I'll use a regular expression, and the pattern is going to be quite simple. So I kind of expect the tracking number to be first made of 3 characters, which then is followed by 4 digits. Okay, so a pretty simple template. Okay, and I also want to add postcode. Okay, let's make it a regular expression, and this time I'll just copy and paste. So I'll be using UK postcodes. So usually UK postcodes are made with like 1 or 2 alpha characters, then there is a digit, then there might be another digit or a character, then usually there is a space, digit, and then 2 characters. So I'll create that. And with this, the chatbot should already be trained to understand and extract tracking numbers and postcodes from any sentence, no matter how meaningless it is. So I can say, let's test this thing, BAS 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can say BA1, 1BB, blue 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll see what happens. So you can see from this, the chatbot kind of recognized that the BAS 1, 2, 3, 4 could be a tracking number. Also, the LU 1, 2, 3, 4 could be a tracking number. Yeah, why not? And then finally, we have the BA1, 1BB as the postcode, which works quite nicely. So we could already work with those things and then see what happens. Okay, so our chatbot understands what is a tracking number, it understands the postcode. So now we can train it to actually construct a conversation that will ask for this information. So first, we'll create a step of type question, and in this case, we'll ask for tracking number of type tracking number. So this is the regular expression that we just created a moment ago, and we'll ask question like, what is your tracking number? So this is the prompt question that we'll ask to the user. Okay, cool. And then the next step will also be a question, and this time it will be a postcode of type postcode, and we can ask, what is your postcode? Okay, so with this, we should already be able to have some sort of conversation. Where is my parcel? And the chatbot will respond with like a welcome message. This is usually what happens with just a test console, but it also asks for the tracking number. So if I say something this is not a valid number, and then I can say BB11. Obviously the chatbot will not understand it, so we'll say I'm not sure I understand what you just said, and we'll ask you again for a tracking number. So in this case, if I say, yeah, ESB1234, you go on and understand it. So in our console, it kind of shows that it understands the value ESB1234 as the tracking number. Then you can ask for a tracking for a postcode. So I can say BA11AB, and you also understand this as a postcode. So that's one part of the success, which is pretty great. Another thing that can happen is I can say, where is my parcel? And then I can also provide my ABC tracking number in one go, right? And what happens? The chatbot skips straight to the postcode question, which is good but not exactly great, because what I would expect, you can see it understood that ABC1234 is a tracking number, but it didn't tell the user about that. It should actually notify the user saying like, hey, I understand that you provided me with a tracking number, so that they're not confused. So what we can do is provide some sort of a prompt message. So we have this thing called reactions and acknowledgements. So I can see, I can provide an acknowledgement saying something like, I will use, and using like double curly bracket, so I can inject that value as your tracking number. And in this case, if we provide the tracking number up front, then the user will get a little prompt about what is going on. And this is really, really helpful. So let's go ahead and test that. Where is my parcel? ABC1234. And now the chatbot will respond with our prompt message and then ask for a postcode. One other thing is that we can pretty much provide any regular expression that matches the pattern in our training, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the provided value is a real postcode. So what we could do is use some sort of validation method. So I have a simple API here that if you call this endpoint and provide a postcode, it will return a flag with value to either be true or false if we provide an invalid one, and then also give you some sort of message. So we could use this API to validate our inputs. And this is actually a pretty straightforward thing to implement. So all we have to do is add reactions validations. And in this case, we'll use a validation of type webhook. So what we need to do is provide the endpoint to our validation call. And then in this case, we'll pass in the postcode provided by the user. And then we'll validate on the response value. So we'll check valid flag that comes back from the API call. And then finally provide some sort of message to the user like, this is not a valid postcode. And we can test that. Where is my parcel? ABC1234. What is your postcode? That's not going to work probably. Yep, this is not a valid postcode. We're getting a response in our case. Yeah, array code not found. Perfect. So if I say BA11AB, that should work, and the chatbot is ready to go. And the final step that we have to do now is basically using the tracking number and the postcode, ask the API to give us the update on where the parcel actually is. So in our case, we could use again this API that if I provide the tracking number over here and the postcode, we'll get an object back which will have all sort of information like where we're trying to deliver it, what is the status, expected arrival, etc., etc. So we could definitely use that. So let's go back to our chatbot and add a final step. So it will be a step of type webhook because we're going to call our API. And in this case, instead of this, we'll pass in the tracking number value, and instead of this postcode value, we'll actually pass the postcode, which will come from the user input. We don't need the method header or payload. That's all good. Then we just need to add an entity. So this is like a variable where we store the result, and I'll call it response. And then finally, I will display some message to the user, and I will display more than one line. So I can say something like, your parcel is, and then I can say response.status. And in the new line, we can say something like, we expect it to be delivered by, and then we'll just say response.expected arrival. And that should do the trick. Okay, so let's test that in action. Where is my parcel? I will say SEP1133. What is the postcode? So I will use the postcode SD17PB. Oh, actually, this is an invalid postcode. So I should actually use SE17PB. My parcel is ready to be shipped, and they expect it to be delivered by Friday at 10 a.m. Well, this is a success. I can now easily use my APIs to validate the postcode and also check the status of my parcel. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is question answering and the new user experience that we've added. And the aim of this exercise, or our objective, is basically to put the control in the hands of the subject matter experts. So the idea is that pretty much anyone should be able to build and maintain their chatbots, and we are trying to provide an easy to use editor for that purposes. And the whole idea is it shouldn't be just for developers, it should be absolutely for anyone that is willing to build a chatbot. So I am actually going to jump straight into a demo to show you what I mean. So here's how the dashboard looks for our new user experience, and you can see still the similar guided conversation and question and answers and all those items that I showed you before. But I want to jump straight into questions and answers. And in this case, we'll add a category. So that'll be for frequently asked questions. And in a way, we could ask manually each question one by one. So the first question could be like, what is the shipping cost? And there could be more than one answer. So we're actually using those labels that kind of describe what this question is about. So it's about the shipping cost, and then we can provide an answer. And you can have multiple questions within the shipping cost, or multiple ways of asking the same question. And you could also provide more than one answer. And then I can go on and save changes. And then that kind of like adds this to the list of my frequently asked questions. We could also import a whole bunch of questions from a backend or straight from a file. So in this case, I have a CSV file which I can open and then go into a preview, and it kind of shows me a bunch of different questions and answers that I have available for me, and then I can press import and actually load all those questions into my chatbot. So now my chatbot can get trained on all of this, and I could go and test that. So I could even go to test it inside Facebook Messenger. So I can click in here, and then I will get a proxy number, which I can go into a Facebook Messenger. I can paste it in here, and I can actually, this is still the chatbot we had before. We could start asking our question. So I can ask, what is the shipping cost? And the chatbot will provide us with this answer. And here's an interesting thing. I could even jump into a guided conversation. So where is my parcel? So I'm asking a question and I'm now in the middle of a conversation, and you ask me for the tracking number. So I'll say ABC1234. And now I'll actually ask, what is the shipping cost? So this is one of those frequently asked questions. And then what happens is I get the answer to this question, but the chatbot then jumps back straight to the guided conversation it hasn't been finished yet. So this is pretty cool because you could actually use a mixture of um, the guided conversations and then those FAQs as the user goes through the whole journey of a guided conversation, which is really, really handy. And there are a few other things that I would like to show you. So one of them is actually within training itself. So we could actually do a training quality check. So what you can do is create a set of predefined scenarios. Then we could run a quality check, which takes either a few moments or a couple of minutes, depending on the number of tests. And then it tells you what was the expression that the chatbot used. And you obviously have what was expected, and you have the response of what was actually given back, and you have like all sort of confidences. So you could actually use that in case your chatbot evolves over time, and it might be that you could change something that affects other conversations. So this is very, very useful. One other thing that we're working on is also an improved analytics. So it kind of should show you the engagement of your users, as much as like the success ratios. And if your conversation has like quite a lot of steps, you should even be able to see which conversations are more successful or which ones cause trouble to the users. And finally, I would like to talk to you about the native chat pilot that we're working on. So the idea is that if you like what you saw of what I was just showing to you, you could actually join our pilot program where we would work with you across different phases to help you implement the first chatbot. So we would help you implement a conversation scenario and also some frequently asked questions. So the whole pilot would work in few phases. So the first phase would be a requirements gathering phase, would work with you to figure out what would be the best scenarios that would work for you. Then we would look into the implementation phase. So this is where we would work side by side with you to help you implement the scenarios that we agreed during the requirements gathering phase. And then finally, we'll just have a sign off. So let's have a look at each of the phases. So with the requirements gathering, we would start by trying to figure out what would be the best conversation flow for your scenarios, and we would come up with some sort of a script that will cover that. Then would also look at the questions and answers and then build up a list of those that would work best for you. Then would also look at different deployment targets. So like I said earlier on, you could deploy your chatbot to an Alexa device or to a web page or use Facebook Messenger. So in here, we would figure out which deployment targets would work for you the best, and would come up with the acceptance criteria, which basically are the requirements. And all of that will be finalized into a pilot flow agreement document. The next phase is the implementation. So the way we see it working is more or less like this. We'd spend a day with you to provide you a proper training on how to use native chat and how to work with it. Then we would spend about 2 days on pair programming with a dedicated technical expert from your side. Would also spend about half a day working with you to implement those questions and answers. So this would probably be done with the subject matter expert. And then also would spend about a day on setting up the deployment that we agreed on. And then finally, this will give you a fully working chatbot ready to use. And when that's done, we'll move on to the final phase of the sign off. So in there, we'll do a demo to all of your stakeholders. Would ask for feedback in terms of how it all went and whether this is something that works for you and what will be the best thing to move forward. Then would ask for a sign off, and we'll talk about the future of this pilot and where could we take it to the next stage. And then this will take us on to the future where you would be a happy user of NativeChat. So this is all I wanted to show you for today. So thank you for your time. and I'll pass on the mic over to Rob. Thank you, bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sebastian. So hopefully you've learned a thing or two today. Just to recap quickly, you've seen how the NativeChat natural language engine lets you train a bot to interpret a variety of intents and entities. NativeChat analyzes the entire conversation and leverages the long-term bot memory and the goals you have outlined. It can then dynamically generate the full conversation flow for each user. NativeChat can also grab data from internal systems like Salesforce, SharePoint, or any RESTful API, and you can then publish your bot to your channel of choice. In terms of next steps, be sure to check out the pilot program if you have a use case in mind and would like to talk to someone from the NativeChat team about your idea. We also have a fantastic free tutorial. You can use this to try out NativeChat. Just head to progress.com/nativechat/chatbot-tutorial. And with that, I thank you all for attending and have a great rest of your day.